Phone cameras have gotten so good that some people never make the upgrade to DSLR. With the added convenience and the cost savings, it's completely reasonable to stick with your phone forever. But if you're feeling limited by your phone, or you just want to try a DSLR to see the difference, this section is for you. After all, you already know a lot about how to use them from this course. The idea of shopping for your first DSLR or upgrading one you already have can be really intimidating. There are so many cameras and lenses out there, and they all have 20 confusing letters and numbers in their names. So in this lesson, we're keeping it simple. Am I leaving some complex stuff out? Definitely. But just like you can drive a car without being a mechanic, you can also take stunning photos without understanding every nuance about your DSLR camera. In this lesson, we're comparing the two types of DSLR camera body to help you figure out which one is best for you. When shopping for a DSLR camera, you have to make two decisions: the camera body and the lens. There are two types of camera body: full frame and crop sensor. The difference between them is the size of the sensor inside. The sensor is a rectangular piece of hardware that captures light from the lens and converts it into an image. It's the electronic equivalent of film. Full frame sensors are the largest sensor and are the size of 35mm film. In general, larger sensors produce brighter, higher quality images because their larger size captures more light and detail. Crop sensors are smaller than full frame sensors. Because the sensor is smaller or cropped, the edges of your photo will be cropped too. This means your field of view will be smaller at the same distance from your subject than with a full frame sensor. Here's an example of the same photo taken with a full frame sensor and a crop frame sensor at the same distance and with an equivalent lens. You can see that the field of view is quite a bit tighter. To achieve the same field of view with a crop sensor, you need to stand further back. Full frame sensors have multiple advantages over crop sensors. Firstly, because the bigger sensor captures more light, you're less likely to rely on ISO in low light situations. That means less image degradation from grain. This can be especially helpful if you're shooting with natural light in the winter or after work. Full frame sensors also let you stand closer to your scene, like a lot closer. With crop sensors, the field of view is narrower, so you have to stand farther back to capture everything. This is definitely an issue if your mini studio is in a smaller room or you have other furniture or equipment nearby. This is where I need to stand to capture my whole scene with a crop sensor camera and a 35mm lens. And this is where I need to stand with the 50mm lens. Think about your studio space and whether you can stand that far back or not. We'll talk about lenses in the next lesson. Finally, full frame sensors have a higher dynamic range. This means you can capture more contrast, which is the difference between light and dark areas in your photos. This also gives you greater ability to edit your photos. For example, if you underexpose or overexpose a full frame photo, there's enough data in the file that you can correct the blown out areas or brighten shadows that are too dark. Crop sensors don't capture as much detail, so there's less room to rescue underexposed or overexposed photos in editing. And to get all of this goodness, you're gonna pay more for it. The downsides of full frame cameras are their price and sometimes their size. You'll also need to purchase full frame lenses, and those can cost as much or more than the camera body itself. Full frame cameras have classically been bigger than crop sensors, but both are getting smaller over time. So if you're planning to travel with it, you'll want to consider the size of the particular models you're looking at. While crop sensors don't provide the same level of image quality as a full frame, the quality is still great, especially if you're just getting started with a DSLR. Crop sensors also offer an advantage when it comes to cost. And if you have enough space to take a couple steps back when shooting, the narrower field of view may not be a problem. If you want to start with a crop sensor to see if you even like using a DSLR, and then maybe upgrade to full frame later, that's an awesome choice. If you want to invest in a full frame now, knowing you won't need to replace it anytime soon, that's also a great choice. My advice is to let your budget and your space guide you. If you aren't sure what you prefer, a really good option is to rent a camera body and any lenses you're considering, shoot with them, and see what you like. 3-day camera body rentals range from about $40 to $100 depending on the model. 3-day lens rentals are about $20 to $70 each, also depending on the lens. And that's that for camera bodies.